to the Call Her Sam podcast. I'm your host. My name is Sam. If you're new here, you are absolutely welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Today I'm talking to an amazing woman. Let me give it a little introduction. Okay. Tisa Chigaga, she's a Zambian filmmaker, having written for the screen since childhood. She eventually found herself behind the camera in 2018. So in 2021, she moved to New York City from Zambia to study filmmaking at the Digital Film Academy. In addition to writing, directing, and producing short films of her own, she has also served as an assistant director on commercial projects. Welcome, Tisa. Thank you so much for making time to talk to me. Thank you so much for just making time to be here. Thank you so
Hey
much.
girl. Hi
How are you doing?
Sam. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good. It's a little bit cold, but I'm excited about chatting with you. I know that's gonna warm me up.
Of course, of course. We're going to get into it.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm okay. Nobody's asked me that today. I'm fine.
That's
No, but
no,
I'm
that's true. I'm sorry, girl. And it's already 16 hours there. People are
I
slacking.
know.
People are
I
slacking. I'm
know.
so sorry.
Hard, hard.
Well, you
But
look
let's
beautiful, so
thank you. So do you. Now let's get into it. Your film,
thank you.
Bride of Zambia, has been making the
Mhm.
rounds and got people talking. It's being discussed on coffee dates, lunch dates, WhatsApp groups, because you ventured into the part that most people shy away from or they just don't want to discuss. It also challenges gender norms. How and why did you get into this?
I think especially something that you know how it is, even just during the counseling itself, you're not supposed to talk about it. And culturally, there are a lot of things that we're told that it's taboo to verbalize.
Yes.
And I feel like the first thing about this film was I just wanted to address some of the things that we were just not addressing. And I believe that by shedding light on things, I believe
Mm,
that dialogue, I believe that conversation is always the path to new ideas and sometimes even uh, upgraded ideals. And so I just wanted to see if someone started that conversation, where would it go? Where would it
mm,
lead to?
mm. And look at where it's leading to. A lot of people are talking about this. My sister and I were actually talking about it, and she sent me screenshots of what her and her friends were talking about when she brought it up. She got a lot of um info on it. Like basically, like they were talking about it and they were like, most of them were saying, you know what, they need to change the whole syllabus, if you will. They need to look into just perhaps fine-tuning it and just changing the whole concept because it's basically about the man, pleasing the man, making him happy. So now we're kind of like, well, where does that leave us? And what is it doing for us as women? So
I just have to say first, oh, so sorry.
yes, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just have to say thank you for making such a powerful statement because you have no idea how frowned upon it was for women to actually be thinking of themselves.
Mm,
And I feel like us modern girls, it's so easy to forget that for a long time, as a woman, you could not ask, what about us? What is this doing for us? Where does this lead us? And it's honestly when women such as yourself step up and have the courage to make statements like that, that is then what goes on to inspire people like me to make the
mm.
film.
Yeah.
But yeah, and having said that, I always wanted to start from a place of empathy and understanding. I When I made the film, I wanted to show the mother characters also having valid points, simply
Yeah.
because while the syllabus has been focused on men, it's like that for a reason. And the reason it's like that was that in the past, women had no means of supporting themselves. Women could not own property, women could not work out of the home. Your only means of survival was through a man, was through your husband. And as a result, women were being taught that
Mm.
you should hold on to him no matter what it takes. Otherwise, you, your kids, you're going to be out on the street. And so these rules, these norms were evolved as a um, survival mechanism. And then we have modern situations, or modern times rather, where women are educated, women are working on their own. Even women that aren't educated are still able to support themselves.
Yeah.
These girls, they're farming, they have their own businesses. I'm not saying that everybody does it on a very high socio-economic scale,
Yeah.
but even women that don't come from like the most expansive means are still able to look after themselves. So society no longer can really tell women that um, you need a man to survive.
So let me just stop. But you mentioned being scared of the backlash you were told to prepare for when making the film. What were you expecting and how were you planning on handling that?
As well, I am very proud of my culture as a Zambian.
Yes.
Um, my dad's from the East as well. Um,
Mhm.
and I know that that's just a national thing. We're all people that are very, very fiercely proud of our culture and our traditions. I think a lot of times to a point where we can be even a little bit hostile to not even challenges, but mere questioning the culture can provoke even very, very fierce reactions simply because we're so protective of it.
Yes.
And in the film, I asked a lot of questions. And just based on who we are and how we carry ourselves, I knew that a lot of people would see those questions subordinate or even maybe deliberate or maybe overtly rebellious.
Mm.
Um, and I would say that how I prepared for the backlash was just trying to make the film as objective as possible. The film itself, it wasn't a monologue piece
Mhm.
from different generations, even from different parts of society, trying to verbalize and express themselves. So I really try to show everybody's perspective. I try to show why the old guard holds so many ideals of marriage closely to them. I try to show why younger people may want to explore different options. And I think by providing a rounded perspective, I think a lot of people were able to appreciate that
Mhm.
and were able to see that the film was not intended as a critique or an attack, rather as a platform for dialogue.
So now most people have asked, well, why so much focus on Zambia? And I'm thinking, well, why not? She's Zambian. Tell me, how did the
Thank
bride?
you. I know. Let me tell you
Why
one
not?
thing. I was just like, listen, the thing is, I'm Zambia. I was born in Zambia. I was born in Luancha. I was raised in Luancha. I was raised in Lusaka, rather. I went to Charlie House School. I went to Rose Park School. I went to Lwengu School. My family has lived in the same plot for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know anything else to write about except Zambia.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make any sense to me. And one thing that I found so funny was when we had that when we did the BBC thing and they
Yeah.
posted us on their Instagram, and obviously they have such a huge following. We got millions of followers there. And so we got a lot of comments. And one thing I was so surprised was to see all these Zambian men saying, well, why aren't you talking about Lobola? Why aren't you talking about bride price? In the back of my head, I was just like, okay, but why would I, as a woman, be talking about
Oh,
bride
Lobola.
price? And they were like, don't you think it's expensive? Don't you think that it's extortion? I'm like, first of all, women aren't even involved in the negotiations for
Hmm.
Lobola. Those are the uncles that are there. Those are the fathers. There isn't a single woman present in the room. The bride has no say in the money. Women have
No.
no place in Lobola. That's basically a men's arena. So how would I, as a woman, now start making a film about something that I have no perspective on. I've never heard these
Yes.
people negotiate. I don't know what goes on. I don't even know how it feels to be charged. So, and then I thought to myself, okay, but why are you coming to me, a woman who's making women's films, and then start demanding that I should make a man's film? Why don't you go to these other directors when they're making films about all these different topics and say to them, well, why aren't you making topics that are affecting men? Why are you only doing that when you
Exactly.
see a woman doing that?
Exactly.
So that definitely made me laugh, especially because it was a theme. So many people, so many men rather, were saying that to me. And I was like, I think it's important to write about what you know. I have mothers, I have aunties, I have cousins, I have sisters, I have
Mm.
friends. And I wanted to write what about our experiences because we talk, we relate to each other, we let each other
Yeah.
into each other's worlds. So this is perspective I have genuine insight on.
And once if you do a movie about Lobola Bright Price, they'll be like, well, you're a woman. What are you talking about? The backlash again. So it's like
Yeah, but
there's no winning on either side. So
yeah,
if you do
you're
make the
damned if you
movie,
do.
yeah, they will come to you and be
You're
like, well,
damned
you're a
if you
woman.
do.
What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. And you're all the
I
way in New
know.
York City. So what do you mean?
I think honestly, but then again, it's like what I said to you earlier when you made that statement about when you said as women, we ask, what about us? Why is it all about the man? It just comes from the fact that anytime a woman stands up to speak on a platform, just for the fact that she has an opinion or she has the
Yeah,
courage to voice her opinion, no matter what she says, that makes her a target to people.
yeah, she's the bad guy. How dare you have an
Hmm.
opinion in your head? Just
Yeah.
sit there, be quiet, and look pretty.
Oh, even worse, how dare you have the courage to even voice your
It-
opinion?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
How dare you be bold and brave enough to speak? Now,
there you
I know a
go.
lot of people have been talking about your movie and the message, but do you think it will start conversations that have long since been considered taboo? Because this was, like you said earlier on, this was very hush hush. These are conversations that we never had and we're told to keep quiet about. So now you've done this movie. A lot of people are talking about it, like I said in the beginning, a lot of people are talking about it, but do you think the conversations will continue?
I think so. I think
Mm.
even just I didn't expect the response I have because Sam, let me tell you, I literally had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people DMing me after they saw the film. Oh, actually, you were one of them. That's
Including
how we met.
me. Me. I'm here. Hello. I,
Ultimately,
I I did that. I did that.
true. And I have to say, it was such a great experience, just given the opportunity to connect
Mm.
to women who were this curious, connect to women who were open to exploring. So that's another thing I'm so grateful for the film because I met so many um, uh, really, really impressive, bold, and courageous women.
Mm.
But I do feel that just if people are taking the time to actually send a random filmmaker a DM after seeing the movie, I definitely think, they were probably showing the movie to their friends and talking about that with them. And I think a lot of the comments I received and a lot of the messages I received were, thank you for starting the conversation. So I feel someone just needed to show that you can start the conversation. You can actually have this conversation without the whole world blowing up.
Yeah.
You can have this conversation in constructive, safe, and peaceful environments and not
Mm.
feel like we're destroying something and not have to feel like even by talking about it, we're destroying our culture. I was just
Yeah.
trying to show that dialogue isn't the enemy. And I think people picked up on that.
Yeah.
And I think that they ran with it.
But
Because I
don't
mean,
you
even
think
in
a
the
lot of
film,
no, no, keep
no, no,
going in the
please go
film.
on. I was going to say,
No,
even
keep
in the film, okay, even in the film, it's just about women talking, mother and daughter vocalizing, talking about things that they've always wanted to say to each other, talking about, I mean, the mother sharing the
yeah.
experience that she's carried, almost a burden she's carried for a decade just through the spoken word.
Yeah.
So I think people latched onto that theme of the film and were able to follow it through.
But don't you think a lot of people will say, but that's our culture. The man is the head of the house. He shouldn't be challenged. And that's how it should be. So what's your take on that?
Mm. I
Mm,
mean, I will say that my thing is that people are free to choose to do or to live however they wish to live. If
hmm
you yourself are just choosing to say, oh, you know what, this head of the house thing or, being in a more equitable position is not for me. I think
hmm
what works for me best is, being led by a man. That's the level of personal responsibility I'm comfortable with. That's fine because it is your choice. It is how you choose to be in your relationship and how you choose to run your home. But
hmm
that can't work for everybody. And when
Yeah.
that is forced upon, because we're all different,
Yes.
everybody's different, different personalities, different skills, different weaknesses. And so while that is okay for one woman, for other women, that can lead to them almost feeling like, oh, I'm being forced to live in a way that is not really my authentic self.
Yes.
And, I'm going to come out and say, even the reasons why we have this culture of submission, it's not because as women, we're born with something in our heads that says submit, submit, submit. It's
hmm
societal conditioning. It's years
Mm.
and years and even
Yes.
centuries and decades of women being reminded this is your place. If you don't follow these rules, then this is what's going to happen to you. If you don't follow these rules, you will not survive. You will not have a husband to financially cater you. You'll have shame in
hmm
society. So even
hmm
though women are saying this is our culture, they're saying that a lot of the time because we've been ingrained to believe that there's consequences to be experienced if we don't follow that letter. It's not something we're even consciously aware of. If you were to speak to about anything, about any part of our culture, there's a lot that we don't even know we think. It's just always been there in the background. It's always been put in the back of our mind. Like every corner of society whispers these things to us and it reinforces it to us to the point where we don't even realize that it's not something that you just have to take for granted, that it can
Yeah.
also be a choice.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people have said, well, some women have spoken to
You can
said,
tell me. Let it out.
because when they said this to me, I was like, oh, okay, okay. So a lot of people, you've seen the movie, they're like, you know what? We have no problem with submission. We have no problem with being submissive. It's when it's kind of drummed into you, like you have to be sub. Then we're like, like no, now I don't want to be because in your film you have the auntie saying, when your husband comes home, you must kneel. The kukunkulao Mukwai mo African mukwai, type of thing. When your food is ready, you set the table and you say, "Nabapite table mukwai." Also, when your husband must never set foot in the kitchen. So a lot of women who saw that, and you said modern women, and my auntie also says, "You modern girls of today, you're speaking up for yourself and you're standing up for yourself, which is great, but also don't lose your culture." And my thing is, we're not losing our culture, but because we decide to stand up for ourselves, our culture is being lost. So after, when they saw that, they're like, you know what, we have no problem doing this. And we're glad she highlighted this in her movie, particularly that part, because that part, when they were saying that, I was like, this sounds so familiar because I've heard this so, so, so many times when the
Mm-hmm.
auntie's speaking to her. So I was just like, I need to tell you that a lot of girls were like that part, for that part, some girls were triggered by that.
Mm. Yeah, I can understand.
Because these are conversations we never have, and we just
Mm-hmm.
okay, okay, okay.
And there's a
Submission is
reason.
no
I
is
think
no
there's a
problem.
reason why they don't want, we're not supposed to talk about that. There's a reason why.
And when we get together, then we start talking. It's kind of like sharing ideas. And they're like, we don't like where this is going. It's almost like a
Mm-hmm.
revolution. You're gonna stand up and rebel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, your family must be incredibly proud of you because you're saying you made the film based on your sister's experience. Tell me about your
Mm-hmm.
parents' support and what their reaction to the movie was like. I need to hear what your mom said.
Okay, so
What your
let me tell you
said.
one thing that is so interesting, and it's gonna be a story. So first of all, when you're saying like it's gonna tie into the after part what I'm saying, but when you're saying that our friends say we don't mind doing these things, again, I'm trying to say that if you've had something drilled into your head that you shouldn't mind doing this, you shouldn't mind doing this, you might grow up saying, I don't mind doing it. But is that really something that came from you? Is that something that came from who you are as a person?
Hmm.
And so, and that's societal conditioning. But so, first of all, my mom is very, very conservative and very, very traditional. She's definitely 100%. The
As
man
our
is the
moms
head of the
are.
house.
Yes.
When you see a man, you should kneel and greet them. And I mean, like that part, I do. I'm very, very respectful to my uncles, my grandfather,
Uh-huh.
my dad. They definitely deserve that. Um, but it was so funny because so she and I we have very, very diverging views on this topic. She's a
Uh-huh.
lot kind of like the mother character in the film. I'm not saying
Okay.
they were like 100% the same, but I took a lot from my own mother in that role.
Yeah.
And we got to do the BBC thing. They interviewed us first, and we kept saying like, oh, um, the traditional chimbusas, they really don't budge. They haven't really taken the time to try and observe the
Mm.
motions and the currents of modern times and see if a lot of these things they're teaching are still helpful or have they become harmful. And we kept
Yeah.
talking about, they always tell you that at the end of the day, regarding the situation, submit, shipikisha. And and then mom came on the interview afterwards and she kept saying, we don't say submit, we just say you have to have respect, the ultimate respect. And she kept saying that. And I said to myself at the end of the day, so basically, they kind of see, oh, submit is triggering to these girls. So let's just use respect instead.
Respect instead, yeah.
But they're just using that in an interchangeable way because
Mm.
regardless of what it is, it goes without doubt, you're going to respect your husband, you're going to respect a man, you're going to
Yeah.
respect
Yeah.
uh, the people you come across.
Mm.
Even just as a culture, it's a very, very beautiful thing. We're taught that you need to respect your elders. Don't go around calling them by their first names. You don't, beat them standing up. You have to, even the Bible says your parents are your second gods. So we're very
Mhm.
respectful people by nature. And so I
Mm.
took that conversation to mean they're saying the same things, but they're just saying respect when they really mean
Mm.
submit. Um, and so to say, I think in that vein, the movie probably went over a lot of the heads of the older generation because even after trying to have these conversations with them, it still kind of felt like they were just saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
But
I
you
get what
can't
you
take,
mean.
yeah, but you can't teach an old dog new
Tricks,
tricks. Is
yeah.
that what they say?
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with that. It's not their battle for sure. I don't even think that they see that
Yeah.
there is a little battle. Yeah. So in short to say, I think she was glad that I made the movie, or that I followed my dreams rather.
Mhm.
I wouldn't really ask her what did you actually think of the movie. I don't need to hear that answer. That podcast, the podcast told me all that I needed to know.
Well, you know what they say, nobody can give it to you more real than than your family and most your parents.
A
So they'll
hundred
give it
percent.
straight.
100%.
So give me a little insight into what Tisa's childhood was like.
Um, Actually, I was a very, very bookish and nerdy child.
I can see that
I
about you.
had, can you? Wow. Oh, okay. Please. No, I was. And I had a sister, my older sister Chip. She's considerably older than me, and she took a lot of interest into, she showed a lot of interest in teaching me how to read at a very young age. And so as a
Oh,
result, yeah, she was sweet like that.
yeah.
And as a result, I read a lot. And at the same time, my mom was very, very strict in terms of, watching TV or screen time. So that meant that we were just forced to rely on creativity as entertainment. If you were
Oh,
bored, you'd read a book or you'd draw something, or if
yeah.
you were my situation, you
Yeah.
would write stories. And my mom would always indulge me and read the stories written by 9-year-old me or 10-year-old me, which I'm sure made no
Oh.
sense. But she made me feel like I was the next Maya Angelou or Shakespeare or whatever.
Yes.
And so, yeah, and so I always just grew up with a very creative streak, which was also a little bit tricky because I, for some reason, was able to do really well in science. And so that kind of pushed everybody and myself to pursue science for further education and for career
Mm.
purposes. But
Mm.
the heart wants what it wants. And so
For
I
for
eventually,
those of you who
Mhm.
don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Tisa is actually a biochemist. A biochemist girl. And now you're like a whole director, a whole film director from chemist, biochemist to like the film. So it's that creative part of you just came out. You
For
couldn't contain
sure, for sure.
it could not be contained. And
Not
I'm
at
glad.
all. But even when I was at university, I was like a member of the filmmaking society and the cinema club. So I was always pretty active in these things. I think that was the downfall. I think once I joined the filmmaking society, it was like, yeah, this other stuff, it's a wrap. The,
This is
the
home.
end,
This is
the
where
end
I
is on its
belong.
way. Yeah.
Now, from biochemist,
Mhm.
filmmaking, and you also dabbled in the world of lingerie. Girl, tell me about that. The world of lingerie. Yeah.
You know
Tisa,
what?
look at you.
No, no, no. That one
Jack of
honestly
all
was like a
trades.
life.
Look at you. Mm.
No, no, no. Okay, that one I can't really like take the credit. Like that was kind of born as necessity. So the women in my family, especially on like on my mom's side of the family,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad too, we
Mm.
are very, very top heavy. We have very, very large busts.
Okay.
And so by the time I was 12 or 13, I was definitely the bra size of a woman who was pregnant with triplets or something. Yeah. No, no, no. No, seriously, because I was 11 years old in a D cup. Yeah. And I remember, yeah, and my mom's old female employer told me when I was 15 that I looked like a milking cow. Just to give you, yeah, I know. Anyway, poor guy, he wasn't really old there upstairs anymore. Yeah, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun having to be told that at that age.
I know
So
what you mean. I know what you mean because I had my fair share of, apparently I
you
told
know
my
the
friends,
struggle.
oh, well, I'm top heavy, but so I can fit a pencil between my legs.
No, I mean it was very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to, have such a small body, but then to have such, and we didn't
Mm.
really have access to bras of that size. We always had to wait from someone traveling from abroad to bring something for me.
Ah.
Um, yeah, like I was outgrowing them so quickly. And when you're a teenager, you're feeling self-conscious, you're just feeling
Yes.
very negative about your body, and then to also be so physically
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, to be constantly in discomfort.
Mm.
So I told
Mm.
myself that I'm gonna open a bra thing so that everybody can have bras that fit and nobody has to go through feeling like they're literally carrying the weight of the world on their chest and they're only 17 years old. Um, yeah.
I understand that struggle. I understand. So any plans of while you are, you know, winning Oscars left and right? Do you have any plans of opening up, the
From your lips to God's ears, from your lips to God's ears.
Amen, amen,
Amen.
honey. Amen, amen.
Amen.
We
God, I know you're
manifest
hearing Sam.
into
I
existence.
know you're hearing her right now.
Hey, and I'm from Mansa, so hey, we speak the truth amongst other things.
Amen. I was about to say, but I didn't want to offend you. That was the first thing that popped into my head. Like, oh, girl, ask your grandfathers to intercede as well.
Wow. Okay, so apart from sparking conversation and starting the conversation, having people talk about your movie, what are you hoping they will take away from Bride of Zambia?
I think, especially the most important aspect of the film was the mother looking back and realizing, okay, some of these teachings actually led to me having a difficult time. Some of these teachings, not all of
Mm,
them, but some. All of them are
mm,
very good. And I
mm,
completely support the process. I don't think anyone should go get married without having the training first. But the
mm,
movie was her realizing that, some of them really brought me a lot of grief. So why am I then teaching the same things to my daughter? And on top of that, why am I holding women to this standard that I myself know can be
mm,
difficult and painful to bear? And so I want the film to just have us reflecting not just what we're teaching each other, but also we have to be aware of the standards that we're holding each other to. And we
mm,
need to self-reflect and say, you know what, this does not feel good to me, so I'm not going to put that on another woman. I want us
mm,
especially to be careful about how we judge each other, because
mm.
we know for a fact, just from the way we're taught, that you don't go around telling people what's going on in your house,
Yeah.
you know? But I want us to always have in mind that you don't know what another woman is going through.
Mm,
So we need to be gentle with each other.
Show grace to each other. Ah, girl.
Exactly.
So people need to check out Bride of Zambia because when I had seen it, I was just like, wait, what? And she's Zambian and she's made a film about this. Because it's if you haven't been through it, most people won't understand what you're talking about, and they won't really, I don't want to say empathize, but they won't, I'll stick to understand. They won't understand what you've been through or after going through that. So I feel like when the time comes for you, you're gonna be like, I don't agree with that because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H up until Z. I feel like that will be
No, I won't. No. And let me tell you, this is another thing why I made the movie, because like for me, I'm so happy with playing the smiling fool. You can come here and say anything to me, and I'll just smile and nod my head and be like, yeah, but in my mind, I'm saying, hell no,
Tisa,
hell
the
no.
earth is flat.
Or even,
The earth is flat, Tisa.
I mean, I've heard people say that. I've
It's
heard people
smiling
say that. Lots of
fool.
people believe it. No, I get why you're saying that for sure.
Do you really?
Of course. But the one thing I don't like about that approach of saying that, like, I'm just gonna listen and smile and I'm not going to take it, is you're able to do that because you are empowered to, and you've had the exposure to know that there are different ways of approaching these things. But
Yeah,
what about the young person who's never really had that exposure? Or what
yeah.
about the person who there's just too much of an imbalance in the power dynamic of her relationship for her ever to be able to consider a thing? Well, we just make it about ourselves and say, I'll just ignore it. We're not helping the women that are not able to ignore it or
So
don't know that they have the option to.
I noticed you the guy in the movie, the man in the movie, the groom. I noticed he only showed the back of his head. I was like, why didn't you get more screen time? It seems like he was an interesting character. I was like, wait, girl,
No,
why was he more of this
because
man? What is happening?
I
Did you want
know.
to
And
make,
he's
did
such
you
a
not want to,
sweet guy and a handsome guy.
was
Sorry.
he not supposed to have a voice in the movie? It's more on the woman's side. I get that. Totally
A
get that.
hundred percent.
Okay. Okay. So that's why we only
Yeah.
see the back of his head.
Yeah, because I wanted to show this isn't a conversation that's we're dragging men into. This isn't a conversation where we're trying to address men. This is not a
Mm,
conversation where we're trying to hold men accountable to things. No, this is a conversation amongst us women and us women only. It's not a women versus men
mm.
conversation. This is between us girls, and it's
Yes.
actually about holding us girls accountable to it. It's having a private moment to say, look, sister, I get where you're coming from, but this thing
Yeah.
that you're saying and teaching right now, I don't know about that.
I I agree when you said we should hold each other accountable, we should discuss these things because I remember a friend and I were actually saying, well, why should I hide from you what I went through? Just as you shouldn't hide from me what you went through. That's completely up to you. That's your choice. So I love that you said that. That's powerful right there. I love that you said that. So before I let you
Thank you.
go, I know I have to let you go.
Okay.
You have to go write another script, honey. Don't forget to put me in your
Oh, you
next
saved
movie.
my life, actually. I will. I'm gonna have a role just for you, Sam. I'll even call the
Thank
character
you.
Sam. I actually
Thank
just love that name. Sam Prosa.
This sounds so weird when someone says my name before. I'm just like, wait, what? Who, me? Oh, yeah,
Who are
yeah,
you
yeah.
calling? Who?
Oh, exactly. It's like, who? Oh, me. Okay, Nineveh. Alrighty then. So,
Yeah, I
any
got a government too, but oh, sorry.
what's 2025 looking for? Looking like for Tisa, sorry.
I 2025. I'm hoping the first half of it is gonna be a lot better than the first year of 2024 was for me. The first half of this year was really just cow dung. It
Yeah,
was terrible. I'm really grateful to God that things picked up, and I hope that things will continue in this momentum.
yeah.
I would love, I will be shooting another short film, and
Yay!
yes, yes,
Not
and
about
I
Lobola,
don't
though.
know I want to, these women are so greedy and getting their families to, oh, please. Anyway, it's actually about the connection between mother and daughter through childbirth. And it's really talking about how, for us, when you're about to have your baby and your mom comes to live with you. So
Yeah.
it's showing the period where the mom has come from Zambia to be with her daughter before
Oh,
her daughter
okay.
gives birth.
Oh, that sounds exciting. I can't wait to see that.
Listen, I'm obsessed with women. I love women. I love talking to women. I love talking about women. I think our
Yes,
stories are beautiful. I don't
yes.
think that will ever change. Like I just love my Zambian girlies through
Oh,
and through.
no.
Yeah.
We appreciate you too,
So the
girl.
next one, the next one is also for you.
Yay! Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. Thank you so much, Tisa. Thank
Thank
you
you
so,
so much,
so much.
Sam. This was so much fun. It was the best way to kick off the day.
Thank you so much. When you win that Oscar, please don't forget me. And when I call you, hit you up like, yo, we gotta talk about this Oscar. Talk about
God,
your
please hear Sam. Please hear Sam, God. I know you're listening right
you
now.
will
I know you're
remember
listening.
me. Everything I say comes to don't mess with God's kids, okay? Don't mess with God's kids. Listen, I have a direct line to him,
Amen.
okay? So
I
you will
love
remember.
that too. Yeah, dial me in. Let's do a three-way.
Thank you so much, Tisa. I hope I
Thank you,
speak to you
Sam.
soon, sometime again soon.
We'll speak soon. We'll be in
Yes,
touch.
yes, definitely.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you
girl.
so
Have a
much.
great evening. It was
Thank you, you
fun. It
too.
was fun.
It was. It
Okay.
was. All righty. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Don't forget every Thursday, 2:30, Call Her Sam podcast. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do so. Hit that subscribe, like, and share. And I'll see you soon.